one. You're live.
Hey, welcome to Con Carolina's Television. It's Bronner here, along with
Me
all these smiling faces.
and you
Oh my goodness!
and you.
And so we're just going to go around the horn real quick and introduce ourselves. We'll start with my lovely co-host Nick.
Hello, everybody. It's Nick. I'm so happy to be here, especially because we're about to talk about a topic that is just so near and dear to my heart. Wheel of Time, really, just an incredible series of books and interesting, decently reviewed Amazon series that I have seen none of.
He's here for the cannon fodder. We're going to throw him to the Trollocs.
Oh,
He's a
Nick would be perfect.
Dorchester.
All right. Who else we got?
He's a new face.
Yeah. It's not really new. It's been on the show a couple of times,
Couple times,
but
you know. still
but
new.
we love welcoming him back. Why don't you tell us about yourself?
Hey, I'm Richard Fife, author of the Falstaff book Conflict Born. It is a gaslamp fantasy with steampunk zero-G bisexual sky pirates. I also have been involved with running Jordan Con, the Wheel of Time convention, since its inception, and have obviously had the books and the TV show in my life a lot. So I have opinions. I got thoughts.
That's good. That's good. You fit right in.
All right, what about the bum?
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Bum in the
I'm
hoodie.
bumming it. I was a totally late addition here because
You look great. Shut the hell up.
Yeah, you
there
look
needed
fine.
there needed to be balance. Nick is so passionate about this topic. He's almost as passionate as his love of Twilight. Hashtag Nick loves Twilight. So I am
Oh,
here to
yeah.
kind of balance that out. So
Yeah, I think
this-
we can
yes,
agree. They're of pretty much equal literary merit, right?
They are. You are as familiar with Wheel of Time as you are with
If you
Twilight.
didn't get hate mail before, you will now.
I don't get the first letter. Oh man. All right, so I guess that leaves me for last. Soy Rey. Bienvenidos. Hi guys. Glad to be back. I've read the books. I did watch the series. I have some opinions. Not always popular ones, but I'm here.
All right. So what we're talking about, of course, as Nick alluded to, and Richard and pretty much everybody else is Robert Jordan's books, Wheel of Time series, and it also turned into a streaming series on Prime called
The Wheel of
The
Time.
Wheel of Time. And
But
you know-
is it really just Robert Jordan?
no, I think actually Brandon Sanderson probably had. I read that he had some to do with the show. I don't know if he's an executive producer or what, or a showrunner. I don't know, but they worked a lot together, especially towards the end. From what I understand, and you might know more about this than me, Richard, is I think it was the he was asked, I think, by maybe the widow to
Sanderson?
finish the books off.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, after Jordan passed away, Sanderson had written a very moving eulogy that got Harriet's attention, Harriet being Robert Jordan's widow, and was also his editor. And so she reached out to
Can you
him.
imagine that?
Yeah, there are some stories about him having, depending on who he was writing for the day, she might send him back out to the carriage house to shake it off. But Sanderson was brought in as someone to finish what was supposed to be the last book, turned into the last 3 books, based off of the notes left behind, and working in close conjuncture with the team that was left behind, not just Harriet, but also Alan and Maria, who were 2 personal assistants that helped out with the series. Then Sanderson was also an executive producer. I think still is an executive producer for the TV show, and gets to do some script review, as I understand it. They send him scripts and he gets to give some notes on them that may or may not be listened to.
Probably not. We know.
Probably
We
not.
have some.
We
We have
know
some.
how.
There's an impassioned in people that love, obviously, the books. I mean, they made a series about it on TV, and whenever they invest in something like that, it has to be something that's actually worthy of the investment. Not always, because we do have junk out there, but
What?
there are a lot of people that say books, period. TV show, the hell with you.
Mm,
Get away from me, kind of thing.
yeah.
And I was one of those people at first. And it's odd because I felt the same way when I watched Ring of Power. Not that there was any books based on Ring of Power, but the TV show, it just didn't grab me right away.
Mhm.
And the thing that bothered me about the Wheel of Time, like say the first 3 episodes of the first season, was that they were changing it enough. Okay, they were changing it too much for my taste.
Mhm.
They were changing a lot of very pertinent things that go on in the storyline, and they took a lot of liberties in that. And then I thought and sat and thought to myself, how would they possibly ever do? I think it's supposed to be 3 seasons or maybe even 5 seasons. I don't know the how long the show's supposed to run, but it's hard to squeeze an umpteen amount of books.
Yeah, they know they're not getting 15 seasons.
Right.
Yeah.
You have to take liberties that way. So I started accepting a lot more of the stuff that
Basically,
I
what
found
I'm
wrong.
hearing is that you're accepting the excuses. The excuse is that we've only got 3 to 5 seasons to make this. We chose a series that was 14 books deep, that has a cult following,
Mhm.
and we said we're not.
Has
gonna
its own
make it.
con for it.
If
Yeah.
you're going to want to make a series into a TV series, you're going to adapt that for TV,
Mhm.
then don't overreach. Because that's what they did, in my opinion. They have made vast differences because they're overreaching.
What's the worst
Instead
one?
of allowing time for, let's say, Perrin's character to grow into.
Well, we don't know. We don't know yet because
Hold on, because I was really mad. Instead of taking the time and allowing Perrin's character to grow into what we all know,
Mhm.
they gave him a wife and killed her off. That is the catalyst
That was weird.
for him developing and emerging as, he's got the wolfy stuff going on there.
Some
Yeah,
of those moments, I haven't read the books, but some of them do seem rushed, just from a movie standpoint.
Yeah.
Some of those ideas just seem kind of forced.
They are, because they're substituting what took half a book to develop,
Gotcha.
or a whole book, or 3 books.
Or books, or entire character arcs across the series.
Right. And I'm huge. The reason I read fantasy novels is because, in my opinion, I feel like they have the best character development. They have the best intricacies on, why something in chapter 1 affected them in book 5. And that character development, for me, is missing in the series. Matt's character.
Matt's character, I thought they did a really good job with Matt's character. I thought I was most upset with the parents' character, and
Yeah.
okay, so
Compared to the books, I feel like Matt was like the weakest in the book. Before book 3. Like book
Right.
3 is where Matt actually starts to come out. But book 1 and 2, he's not really doing much, and I feel that they've managed to give something more compelling to him there. But yeah, Perrin, I think that they're just not giving dude killed his own wife. That should be tearing him to shreds in so many more ways than we're getting to see on the show.
Yeah.
Do you think
There seems
that's
to be
the
a lack of
actor's
drama.
portrayal, or do you think it's the
Oh, I
script?
totally feel like
I think it's screen time. I think it's just a matter of
Yeah.
screen time.
screen time is great.
It's really hard to dive into the trauma and how it affects you when you're given so little screen time.
Yeah.
So, like, if it were me, for instance, and Nick chime in whenever you want to.
Yeah, Nick, what's your opinion on this?
What is
Do you
Yeah,
feel
I-
like,
you know what?
this trauma needs more screen time?
Yeah, it's always difficult when you're adapting these incredibly long series that are much loved by their fandoms, from novels into either television or movies. And, there's always things that they do wrong. In my personal opinion, when it comes to the Wheel of Time series, I really didn't like how in the third one they took them out of their house robes and they just had them wearing like casual clothes. Like Hermione was just wearing like a pink polo or a
Wait,
hoodie or
Nick, I
whatever.
think
That's-
you're confusing
Different episode.
Word.
No, don't,
different. Yeah.
don't condescend to me. Of course, I love Wheel of Time. This is my favorite.
Not
fiction in
Time
all of
Turner.
Yeah.
Wheel of
Yeah,
Time.
Wheel of Time Turner. It's the same.
Little
The
different.
point I was trying to make, though, is that I think they should have done what, obviously Jordan's a master of creating your desire to want to know and read more about a character. Like, he will take an entire 3 chapters and go through one character, and then all of a sudden you won't see him again for a book. and you're like, what the hell happened? And what I think they should do, or should have done, was created like almost like the Perrin episode, the Matt episode, the Rand episode, and so on and so forth.
I like
mean,
how they have the Warder episode.
Yeah.
I don't think.
Yeah, the reason why I say
Because
that
that
is
was
because that way you get to know, and they do get the screen time that they deserve, and that the characters actually need in order for you to relate to them. Because Perrin's my favorite character in the book by far, in the books, and I don't know. I just think the way they just like put men in a cell next to Matt, and I mean all kinds of weird
the
things
whole
were
time-
happening.
Because it's been a while since we've read it, and we're watching the show, and we're like, did that actually happen, or did they change it? Did that really happen? No, that didn't happen. And every 5 minutes, we're like, man, that didn't really happen. That didn't happen that way.
I got really confused when the Sean Chan showed up
Yes.
at the end of episode 2.
Right.
And it's like they're on the wrong side of the continent for
Yes.
this to be a thing.
Because there are implications from their arrival and what happens there to the characters later and their development and their growth with the One Power.
Yeah.
So if they're not where they're supposed to be, how are they going to fix this in the series?
So I think what I think they're doing adaptation wise is first of all, this is not a canonical excuse, but it's something I've heard that I'm embracing as a how to accept things, is that this is a different third age. The Wheel of Time turns, ages come and go. There's been an infinite number of third ages.
It's a multiverse.
What we are watching
Yeah.
is a different iteration of the third age.
So now Nick
wheel
is
keep- the wheel
definitely
keeps
on board.
turning.
So
The
because the wheel keeps
multiverse.
turning.
Mhm.
And so it's kind of multiverse. It's time is a coil. And so we're at a different point on the turn of the coil, a different coil number. And
Okay.
they're trying to hit major intersections of plot, but they're taking different routes to get there.
Right. And they're kind of like doing mashups of things just in order to expedite things, maybe.
In some
but
ways.
they're not.
But I think one thing they're losing is what you talked about, how you'd have this character you'd be with for several chapters and then they're gone for a while. At the end of season 1, when they killed Lord Agelmar, who was supposed to survive all the way to the last battle,
Yeah, that was my dude.
and is one of the great captains.
You were cheering for him, weren't you?
I'm sure you were cheering for him, Nick.
Yeah.
And when he took that crossbow bolt, I'm sure you screamed in agony.
You probably cried.
Yeah, it was
Absolutely.
like a family
There
member
was-
died.
there
The
was-
personal
Cried. I was
loss.
like, what the?
Mhm.
We had both a
Personal.
funeral and a seance to try to communicate with him afterward.
Because honestly, watching that scene, I didn't think much of it because I'm like, okay, he's going into this battle. I know from reading the books that he survives.
Yeah.
Excuse the enemy.
Yeah.
Apparently, he doesn't.
And I'd heard, so I'm friends with some people on the production, and I've heard some things be commented about to the effect of, well, we can't have every little bit actor on an 8 season contract, and it's like, other shows
I
have,
get that.
Right?
That's true.
You can do
but
it.
Walking Dead did that.
Other shows have,
Mhm.
But they don't want to
It
be
just
like
costs-
other shows.
and you can just recast the person. It's not the end of the world.
It's
to
not
recast them.
right. It's not that hard.
They recast one of the main leads.
Mhm.
You can get away with recasting bit characters, without having to kill them. And they did it again in episode 3 of season 2. They killed a fan favorite character, and it's just like, why? This person who's supposed to make it through to the end of the books. I actually can't remember if he survives the last battle or not off the top of my head.
Yeah, I hated when they decided to kill off Legolas. Like, it just didn't make any sense to me whatsoever. Like, he made
That-
some
Wrong
yeah.
theory. Wrong theory.
Yeah.
Actually,
Yeah.
there's a question in the chat, and I'm gonna ask you, Richard. What is your favorite of the Wheel of Time novels?
Yeah, I asked
Novel,
that, by the
book
way,
four.
in the chat.
Shadow Rising, hands down, Shadow Rising. Between the very amazing fight for the Two Rivers, the Battle of the Two Rivers, and the scenes in the of the Isle history going through the glass columns,
Love that.
those were just and it's just a book. It's Empire Strikes Back. It is the in the series, it kind of has this Empire Strikes Back feeling of, even though we scraped a victory out, was it really? Our victory
Right.
was that we
Yeah.
didn't die,
Woohoo!
but that and there's a couple other, like, my next favorite book would be Lord of Chaos,
Mm.
with the famous Dumai's Well scene, which
Yeah.
Shut up.
I am sticking with the TV show because they've promised they are going to do a Dumai's Well. So I'm looking forward to seeing what Dumai's Well looks like. on
Same.
the screen.
And
I'm not
Are-
completely writing them off yet, but I am disappointed.
I'm not disappointed in the actual production of the show and the actual. It's visually stunning.
Yep.
What irritates me, and I'll just go ahead and say that, is that when I read a book, I play it like a movie in my head, which a lot of us do, right? And I cast it in my head. And the people that are playing the characters, other than Rand, I think they did a spot on job with Rand. They just didn't live up to what I envisioned as the character, which bothers me to some degree.
But that's your vision of the character.
Right. But my
Mhm.
vision might totally different. Like I'm thinking, like, what's that guy's name who plays D&D? Is the actor Joe?
Magnolia?
Yeah,
Maginot?
Manganiello.
But
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, Ray
Okay.
knows it. Ray knows the name.
I know that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She does. Yeah.
Like I pictured him as Perrin. so
Yeah.
like
I did too. And I was praying for it. For it.
That's kind of a big. I think it's a big name. I think it's a big get right there. That they just,
I mean, it's a huge get,
Yeah.
but they could have gotten a
Somebody like that.
esque
But
type creature.
I'm not
Big get, but he's not even A-list. Like, that'd be doable. Amazon's got money.
I don't.
Yeah, but they put all their money into Ring of Power instead.
yeah, which was
Rings of Power literally had 10 times the budget.
But they didn't have 10 times the cast. I mean,
was
although I thought the
10
cast
times
was
as
brilliant,
terrible.
But the lady that's playing Moiraine,
I love her.
she's great.
I do.
Rosamund
What's her
Pike.
name? Ellen Pike, yeah. Or what's her name? Pike?
Rosamund Pike.
Rosamund
Rosamund. Yeah. Yeah, she was excellent, but she was
Yeah, she's a
nothing like
great
I
one.
pictured. But she was a great
Agreed.
get.
Mhm.
And I think Lan, even though he's nothing like what I pictured,
Oh,
like I pictured more of a Jamie Lannister type of
yeah.
person.
Mm.
But if you
I
look at,
pictured taller and more brooding.
yeah, if you
He's
look at,
kind
like,
of brooding though.
He's kind of
He is,
brooding.
though. I'm not
not
disappointed
just-
with him as Lan. I'm really not.
yeah, the
Yeah.
cover, like if you look at the
Perrin
cover
seems
of the
more
Eye of the
brooding, though.
World, the original cover of the Eye of the World, I think it's the original. Where he's prancing on the horse.
Yeah, he's on the horse and he has like
Yeah.
the samurai armor on.
It looks like it could be him. And I think that's probably where they took the inspiration from, maybe. But some of the other things like that are going on that puzzle me, and maybe you can clear this up a little bit. Are
And
they
I will.
trying? You're going to try, Nick. I'm going to ask you directly. Are they trying to make Moraine's character Suan's character?
Oh.
So the kind of tongue-in-cheek answer I've heard for what's going on with Moraine is you don't cast Rosamund Pike and then give her Book Moraine's plot.
Yeah.
Book Moraine doesn't have a lot to do in books 2 and 3. She's there in 4, and then end of 5, she's gone.
Right.
And it's like that. You don't get a actor of Rosamund's caliber who's your anchor act. Like she is the anchor name for the show. She's top billing, and to the point that they even said they wanted to. Part of what they were doing was they were trying to change the point of view to be more from Moraine's point of view in the first season, which is why, even though those of us who've read the book know who the dragon is,
Right.
it's, them trying to give that little bit of mystery of we don't know which of you is the dragon because Moraine didn't.
Right.
And so they were trying to tell it a little bit more from her point of view, just to mix things up, I think, to make it a bit more of a female narrative, which I think, Jordan was very interested in trying to flip gender norms. And so I think there's some changes that he would have approved of for adaptation.
So I got a question for Sean and apparently Nick. I don't know, because I don't think Nick's read it. I think he's only seen this series. Because Bronner and I were talking about the series, and something that I had said was that for those of us that have read the book, we know exactly what's going on. But I could see how, for somebody who's never read the book, you're probably confused. Are you? Like, I don't feel like they're piecing things together well to explain anything for you.
I'll let Sean go first, and then I've got a good one for this.
Yeah. Mine'll probably be brief compared to the exposition that Nick has prepared for this question. I don't necessarily feel that way. That like I'm confused. I just feel like everything is rushed. Like all of the Lon and Devane, like their romance. It all just what is it?
Nynaeve.
Oh yeah, Nynaeve.
What?
That's it. Yeah. Sorry, I'm really bad about names. I have to turn on closed captioning, or I have no idea what the names are.
Then you would hate Robert Jordan's books because like all of the names in there are like funky.
Yeah.
And within a couple letters of each other.
Right.
Oh, fantastic. Great. Okay. So yeah, it just things feel so rushed. Like it's like I mean, it's like they don't talk, and then all of a sudden, wham, they're hooking up. What? Wait, really?
Yeah.
Like, I don't get it.
Yeah.
Why?
I mean,
Like,
that
I don't
was kind of true
motivation.
with Lan and Nynaeve. It was supposed to be they kind of silently noticed each other and became respectful to each other, and then got the hots for each
But it also
other.
happened over several books.
But that's what I'm saying. Like this happened in the course of like 20
No,
minutes.
Nynaeve was all about Lan by the end of book 1.
No, wasn't it too?
No, because Lan that was her third arch at the beginning of book 2, was having to give up Lan.
Yeah. Okay, so it was one book. She fast. She a fast girl.
I mean, it was a couple months of travel.
Yeah, right. I mean, there's people that go on, one date and feel
And
like
they
they've
know.
known each other a
Well-
lifetime.
Don't they?
And
Aww.
now 10 years later,
You want to throw me out the door?
So I'm
Never.
not confused.
No.
I've watched. I went back and watched it again right before season 2. So I'm
Yeah, we did.
so I think there is a little bit of confusion there. Like the dude from the vendor, the peddler from
Hadn't
Oh,
Hayden.
God, I hate him.
yeah. So like as I'm rewatching the second time, there's that moment where Perrin is walking through the street and he
Mhm.
kind of does a double take and goes, I
Glimpse.
could have sworn I just saw a glimpse of, and I went, oh, okay, because I've seen the whole season, so I know what happens later on. And I'm like, oh, okay, there's that moment. All right, so yeah, on a first pass, you're right. It definitely can be confusing.
Yeah.
Because everything
the
just
books are
kind of
like that, too.
happens.
Yeah, I mean, I will say as somebody who never read the novels myself, that I do think that the series is incredibly confusing, especially if you don't watch it. And I think that like it's kind of like with One Piece, where you're trying to take so much narrative and condense it into a smaller series, or so the internet tells me, because I have not watched or read One Piece either. I think that with things like this, you kind of have to give the directors a pass a little bit, because they're trying so hard to adapt something that is so huge and so meaningful to a variety of people, myself included, as this is my favorite, of course.
Of course.
But it is very difficult to understand when you don't watch it.
I think
Yeah,
one thing that we got
that's a
spoiled
good
on-
point.
One
point,
thing that
good point, yeah.
spoiled us is that Game of Thrones actually did adapt well.
Yes.
Game of Thrones, as for one, they had 10 episodes, not 8.
Mm-hmm.
But the first book was linear enough that the first season of Game of Thrones adapted, fairly well without having to do too much compression or changing of things.
Yeah.
It was just small things. Like the major plot points and characters were all there.
It
As
did
opposed
well
to Wheel of Time.
up until the point where they were like pacing R.R. Martin and they hadn't released things. And
Yeah.
when
I'm only talking about early Game of Thrones.
Yeah.
Yeah, but the thing that I respected and liked about that, it might be because it was 10 episodes a season. They did that character development thing where they gave like Sansa her spotlight. They gave they went down the line, which is kind of how the books were written anyway. But but that's kind of the point that I was trying to make, is that keep it at least in the cadence that we fell in love with of the way the books were written. It doesn't have to be the exact same. You can take shortcuts and whatnot. You have to, but follow that the way that he unleashed them upon us. And that's kind of the feeling that I got.
I need to know their motivations. I need to know some more backstory. I need to understand what makes them tick. If I'm going to care about them, I need to understand some of these things. I think Game of Thrones did that pretty well. Whereas
Game of Thrones had a more familiar world to us. The magic was very low magic.
It
was basically England.
Yeah.
And we didn't have to have a lot of translation or exposition to understand.
We didn't actually have dragons until the very end of season 1.
Yeah, the end of season 1 is when
there were a lot of boobs.
Lots of boobs.
Well, yeah.
And we know
it is funny the rise and fall of the boobs through the series.
We're talking about Game of Thrones or Wheel of Time?
Game of Thrones.
Game of Thrones.
Oh,
which one
was are watching?
Yeah.
No, for how often boobs feature in the books, very lacking boobs in the TV show.
Yeah. The ratio is off.
Yeah, they had to tame down some of what happened in the books and Game of Thrones.
When the Shan-Chan
They were straight up,
and they were clothed.
Yeah.
There were
I was like, they're supposed to be topless.
For the show.
Oh, the Eth and Mary, the sea folk.
So Wheel of Time.
I think that they did look badass though.
They did.
I think
Yeah.
Yeah, it gave me a feeling of almost when I first saw 300.
Oh yeah.
You know, and
Oh, that
it
was
it was that kind of like epic encounter, you know. And I really loved that aesthetic that they showed. Although it was all wrong, you know,
I still enjoy
it still looked
do
really
you-
cool. I mean, I was able to
What do
give
you-
that a pass for sure.
What do you think of their portrayal of the One Power? Of whenever they're using
magic.
they use it.
Yeah.
Whenever they're using magic, yeah. What do you think
Exactly
of
how
the
I thought about it.
My
think-
controversial opinion, I like season 1 better than 2.
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
think season 1 they did a better job of it actually looking like weaves as opposed to just and I have power around me and it does a thing.
Right.
Yeah.
So far the
yeah.
magic has just felt
The dagger, the scene with the dagger pulling it out of Matt.
Mhm.
To me, they did that fantastic. The weaving of the light and the dark.
Mhm.
I thought I don't know what, because I haven't read the book, so I don't know what it reads there. Just visually from the series, I think is great. I think they did a good job with it.
Yeah, it's
Broder says it lines up pretty well with what he envisioned when he read the book. I don't see it that much though. Like my vision was different.
yeah, my vision isn't 100% what they're showing, but it's also magic has just traditionally been so hard in live action media.
Yeah.
Anything that's high fantasy magic is just, getting it to look not corny.
Yeah, yeah, and getting it to the actors to give you the feeling that they really are casting magic, as opposed to because a lot of times it's like it's separated. They're doing their thing, and then you can feel the separation between what they're doing and then the animation itself.
The motion
I think
of
it did
casting
really well.
the fireball doesn't look.
I don't feel it. I don't feel it. Yeah, not at all. I think they did a very good job of the weaving.
Yeah, I think especially just that battle in Two Rivers when Moraine is going to town. I know so many people are like, "Oh, the CGI looks horrible." I'm like, "This looks amazing. This is like the acting is messing up with it so well, and the strain. You see the strain, and
yes,
it's
that's the important part. Like magic strains you, magic drains you. And I don't like when series make it look like magic is just something you do off the cuff and it has no impact on you whatsoever. It's mana. We all understand mana at this point. Most people who's watching understand what a mana drain is. So that's what we're doing is you're draining you, then we use your magic. Give us that.
Richard said a word. He said corny. And it reminded me that I was deathly afraid that they were going to put this out when we heard about the Wheel of Time coming out, and that it was going to be just as bad and just as corny as the Sword of Truth series they put out. Oh man. I was like, for the love of God, please keep Sam Raimi the hell away from this project. I love Sam Raimi. I love what he does, but don't touch it.
Yeah.
Don't touch it.
No touch.
Yeah, I mean, I'm very happy that this is, because I remember being excited for the Sword of Truth series when it came out, and then
me too.
We got what we got.
Yeah.
You might as well have had Xena and Hercules.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I wanted more. Just going on a different. I wanted more from the dude that was in charge of the white light.
Child
White cloaks.
Oh, Child Baldwin.
Yeah, white cloak. Yeah, the black guy that did love the character. I mean, I hated him because, of course, that's his goal.
You're supposed to.
Yeah, that's my point. You're supposed to. I love to hate him in that. I thought he did a fantastic job.
Then read the books because you will loathe that motherfucker.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I'm hoping at the pace they're going, we'll probably get back to him end of season, like just kind of the narrative beats they're hitting.
Mm-hmm.
It'll probably be season 3 that we get back to him.
Yeah.
Okay.
Is what I'm expecting. Is like beginning of season 3, or he'll be the teaser like the Sean Chan was at the end of season 1. He'll be the teaser for season 3.
Yeah.
I mean, I really will say though, I was expecting more closure for Jon Snow. Like it felt like they really did a rush job with his narrative, like all this build up, like maybe he's the prince that was promised, maybe he's Azor Ahai, and then he doesn't
I'm
even
just
get to kill the
glad.
Night King. He has to kill his aunt lover. Like, come on. And he gets banished. Sucks.
Who knew? Who could have seen that coming? I'm just glad that Wheel of Time didn't kill off Sean Bean. That was the most exciting thing for me.
Yeah, he was supposed to be in it.
Well, he would have only
But
been
they
in
killed
there
him
for a couple
before
episodes because they would have.
they killed him
They killed
before
him. Prequel. They killed him in the prequel.
You know,
Got it.
You know,
Cast read. It was during the
they
cast. read that
they
killed
would
him.
have cast Sean Bean as Tam, as Rand's father,
Oh my god.
Yeah.
and then killed him
yes.
just because it's Sean Bean.
They
Just
should have
because.
done that. That would have been
Oh my god,
the
that's
greatest.
perfect.
Because you would have thought, oh, Sean Bean's safe. Tam survives
No,
the series.
never.
Right.
Oh god,
Spoilers.
that's a.
It's
Oh,
okay.
yes.
If you haven't watched season 1 by now,
Well, that's spoilers for for the books.
Well, yeah, that's the thing is with the books. I mean, it's kind of hard to say spoiler alert for the books when they've been out for how long?
The last one came out.
Yeah, everyone's
years
read
ago
them by
now.
now.
Been a decade since the last one came out.
Yeah.
but how they
Isn't that right,
hold
Nick?
up.
Everybody's read it.
Everyone's
Hi,
read
Riz,
them.
Mom.
How do they hold up? And actually, and that's one thing that I'd actually even want to mention is that with this adaptation, book 1 of the Wheel of Time, objectively speaking, is a product of its time. It is definitely 90s fantasy, early 90s fantasy, and it was also, and the author Robert Jordan was still figuring things out. There's things he was playing with. Moraine had a staff that she used a lot in her magic.
Right.
In the first book that is completely forgotten thereafter. There are a lot of other ways, like cosmology type things that he abandons that were kind of alluded to in book 1 that he decided, no, and kind of retconned away. Just the end of book 1 and would have been impossible to shoot because it is supposed to be this big kind of metaphysic fight between Rand and we perceive the Dark One, and they have giant bands of magic around them, and they are flashing around to these different scenes of fighting as they kind of fight, and then you hear the voice of God.
What?
Yeah, like there's a voice of that presumably is like a
Was
voice
it
of God.
Morgan Freeman?
Could have been.
It would have been. Yeah. Okay.
It is in
In Bronner's
season
head,
5.
it's Morgan Freeman.
Yeah, and so it's just they had a hard thing going to do already because whenever I tell people to read the book, I always say get through book 1.
Yeah,
I loved book 1. Book 1. Okay, this is
And
my
book
story.
1, I
on
can
book
go
1.
back now and appreciate book 1 for all the foreshadowing I know, but
My story on my take on book 1 was that it really sent me down the rabbit hole and quickly. I was at O'Hare and I found out there was a delay and I was going to be stuck in the airport. Couldn't even go to a hotel.
I lost internet.
And Roger Zelazny. I mean, I'm an older guy, so I was reading older books, and I really loved those. You lost internet. Uh-oh.
Yep, it's attempting to reconnect.
Are we? We're stuck. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I got you guys back. I'm waiting for the stream. I'm waiting to see if the stream reconnects.
Ooh, good
So
times.
yeah, all of a sudden you guys froze and then disappeared. There's a nasty storm outside, so that's why.
Oh,
We don't have a storm over here.
Yeah. Looking
yeah,
to see-
storms happen sometimes. Like that storm that was in was it episode
Book 3?
4?
Book 3?
Yeah, I think it was book 3.
The Eye of the Storm?
Okay, we are.
Was it the
we're
Eye
back.
of the
World
World?
of Swords or something like that. It was
I had
called.
the storm.
Is that the one where Joffrey died?
Path of the
Yeah,
Storm.
totally, absolutely.
Oh, we're back, guys. We're
Yeah,
back.
we're back. We're back. There we go. Sorry, guys.
All
There's
right.
a
So I don't even know
live.
what point I was
Reset
trying
the
to make.
scene. Bronner is in Chicago Airport.
So you're in Chicago. You're
There's a storm.
stranded,
You're stuck.
and you
You
pick
take
up
it
this.
away.
And this book is like
There's
1,200
zombies everywhere.
1,200 fucking pages, right? And I'm going,
Yeah.
all right. And Roger's Lazenby's books are like 119 pages. I mean, they're small. But, you know, Nine Princes and Amber is iconic to me. Machiavellian. I mean, it was just right up my alley, right? So I'm reading this book and I'm going, wow. This is nothing like, and you mentioned 90s fantasy or, you know, typical. It's like 90s comic books. The world was flooded with them, you know, Piers Anthony books and
Don't knock
boom, boom,
Piers
boom,
Anthony.
boom. I'm not knocking them at all.
Yeah.
But I just started that book and I could not put it down. And I had that book 1,200, and I'm a slow reader. It's a movie in my head.
Mhm.
So 1,200 pages I absorbed in very few hours. It was amazing, and I had never been like sucked into a giant novel like that, except for like The Stand by Stephen King. That was another one that kind of sucked me in. But it introduced me to the serious, like, wow, this is going to be life-changing adventure. And it has been, and it was, and the characters, I mean, I love them all, and I think I can't wait to see them do something with stuff that I'm not seeing, like the Forsaken. They mention them, but I mean, they're so underplayed thus far.
Yeah. All we had were like those little wooden cutouts.
Right. Which really bothers me.
I mean, we've met two of them now.
Right.
I'm
The
very
Forsaken.
excited where Randa's at, and to see if they do the political intrigue justice.
Yeah,
I don't think they will.
I'm not expecting them to. I mean, maybe because they introduced the whole idea of, you know, he's not going to respond. You know, he's going to burn. He's going to throw away the invites, leave them unopened. They're introducing that, so I'm hoping they do more than just give it 5 minutes in the next episode and then call it a day.
But again, like this,
It'll be like House of Cards.
This place plays a
Yeah.
huge part in later development. So if they're going to say we're going to bypass this, how are they going to make that up?
Yeah, there's times that I feel like they are like, how to word this. I feel a little burned from the show in some ways, just from if there's times that it's like, oh, they're totally going to be including this, but no, that was actually just a nod.
Right.
They do a lot of nods. To wit, I am still very upset that they included Uno just to kill him.
Right.
Oh no.
And it's like, Uno he's a bit character. He's not an important character to the story, but he's iconic. And that they did him dirty like that was just harsh.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, so I guess we're not going to get Uno. And so it feels like they keep teasing us with things. And maybe after it's come out and we know what it's going to be, I'll have a different opinion on it. But
at this point,
I do feel strongly about this one. I do feel like I have to jump in. I also get very frustrated when I feel like I'm going to get Uno, because it's like, it's right there, just the next card, and I've got Uno, and then someone skips me, and I'm like, what?
Or that draw four.
You know?
It's the edging of
we got
Uno.
draw four. We got draw four hard.
Yeah.
You know, I think what they're trying to do or what they were attempting to do is give that nod to the diehard Jordan fans to appease us. But what it's really doing is pissing us off.
Yeah, you can't have the cake and eat it too in this case.
No.
It's like
they
would do better.
They better do something spectacular.
Especially because it's not a very important character. I mean, it would have been just as easy to say Uno's not part of it.
Yeah.
And really, nobody would have been upset. But once you bring him in and then remove him like that, now it's
Once
like
you give us the taste of Uno,
give it just the
Yeah.
tip. Just the tip.
Yeah, when you're
Why
down
have
to just
the
that
cake
one
if
card.
You're not going to eat it too, right? Why have the
Yeah.
cake if you're not going to eat it? Give
exactly.
us
It's
more Uno.
ridiculous.
All right,
More Uno.
we need
Yeah.
more Uno.
Another thing that I did want to point out that I really, really love the portrayal of the Trollocs and the Fate.
I do.
Yes, they've gotten that down very well.
Mhm.
That production value, because that's something that could have gone really bad.
Yeah. I mean, it could have
Very
looked
cheesy.
like,
Could have been very cheesy.
what's his name from Mortal Kombat? Grogon? What is that? The guy with
Goro?
the many arms in the
Goro?
first movie? Goro.
Yeah, Goro.
Yeah.
Goro, the forearm guy?
It could have been as cheesy as that,
Yeah,
but it was thankfully
Yeah.
really, really well done.
and it could have also just been, oh, and here's a person wearing a lot of furs.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it could have more or less just been orcs from the Wheel of Time wearing, or from Lord of the Rings wearing fur.
Or wearing a headdress.
Or wearing
something
headdress.
on their head. Yeah.
Or
Mhm.
that's what the old covers, the original covers, never really got Trollocs right, and they
Right.
were always like people wearing helmets that had animal motifs
Right.
on them.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
Almost like that 13th Warrior bad dudes. I forget what they were named. The
Yeah,
I don't remember.
Crichton book
remember
or
that.
whatever.
yeah,
But yeah. No, that
yeah.
is.
That was,
I'm trying to give it the benefit of the doubt. I'm
And-
trying.
and I've loved the vistas. I love how Tarvalon looks.
Oh,
Oh,
me
yeah.
too.
Mhm.
The White Tower is gorgeous.
Gorgeous.
It is. It's nice.
And-
What do you think, Nick? You like you think they did a good job
Yeah.
with the locations and the views?
Yeah, I think that Minas Tirith looked about as I had imagined it when I read the novels. You know, I think that they did a good
Oddly
job
closer than you
actualizing that.
realize.
Right? Right?
Yeah, and I do understand that they had an incredible budget and like the whole Weta was behind all that. Like they did, they do fantastic work. What can you expect?
They do. Mm-hmm.
I think the things that they have done right give me hope for what they've screwed up and what they're going to screw up in the future because they're quite obviously trying.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I don't think they're being disrespectful in any way when they're changing certain things.
No.
I don't think they're just like, this is my show. I'm going to do it my way. I do know they have a time crunch. But again, being a responsible adult, I don't take on a project that's going to take me a week if I only have a day to work on it. That would make me an irresponsible adult if I were to do something like that. And if I produce subpar work because of the lack of time I spent on it, that would be my fault, right?
And I think it's an elephant in the room that we're not talking about the last 2 episodes of season 1 that were shot after the COVID pandemic.
Right.
After COVID lockdowns, they lost an actor, not to the disease, just he didn't come back,
Mm-hmm.
who was one of the main actors.
Could just specify.
Yeah, one of
Yeah.
Sean's. One of Sean's.
Yeah, that they lost the main character. One of their main characters had to drastically rewrite the last 2 episodes to now not include him. And
Mhm.
so if there's
that's why they didn't include him. I was wondering about that.
yes,
We have a new map.
and then poof, they
Yeah.
have to recast him, but they couldn't recast him in time to do the stuff
Last 2
in
episodes.
the last 2 episodes.
Right.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
And that is tough, that's an enviable job, having to follow up that Matt and then be the new Matt, right? It's like how are
Yeah,
you
exactly.
I'm team season 1 Matt. I am team.
I totally am
I
too.
enjoyed him. I thought season 1 Matt was great.
He was nice and brooding. I thought he was.
I
The
thought
right
he was a
amount of
little
No.
greasy.
No, I think like the first couple episodes when he's interacting with his sisters, you really get the feeling and the emotion. You see what he goes through with his home life, which kind of helps develop. I think Matt's character was probably developed more than anybody else's.
Yeah.
I think you're right. Yeah.
And then they went, we're getting a new Matt. I'm like,
And I don't like that. Not
voluntarily.
Not a fan of Yeah.
No.
I think ideally I would like to see it follow the cadence of the books because the way the books are
It's
written
not happening.
grabs you like crazy. Even if you go, okay, we can only get the first 3 books in, That would have been amazing had they just done it the way it was written.
It's not happening.
Well,
For
the
the-
Wheel of Time was
You're
supposed
so
to be a
salty.
trilogy.
Right,
Robert
For the-
Jordan pitched the Wheel of Time as a trilogy.
Really?
right. And then
Interesting.
15, and then what?
14 versus
12
you
months
gotta
later.
His publisher already knew how long-winded he was and gave him a 6-book contract instead. The end of book 3 was where Jordan wanted book 1 to end,
Oh,
God.
no.
when he
That
initially
sounds
pitched the
salty.
ideas.
Very
Wow.
long-winded.
Yeah.
Yeah, sounds like it.
And I didn't like the representation of the ways either.
Yeah, the
Mm.
ways were, and that was just going to be a hard thing to do in general,
Yeah.
because it is, it's pitch black, you can't see anything. That doesn't read well, as Game of Thrones taught us.
Yeah, I must say Game of
Doesn't read
Thrones.
well on
Mhm.
TV.
Yeah.
Right? It looks like bad.
When you got to buy
CGI,
blackout
it's all
curtains in
black.
order to watch the episode.
Yeah,
Oh yeah, it's too
and
dark.
find the setting on your
It's
TV that's making it mess up.
Yeah.
I think they
Can
did
you-
the best they could with what they had on the list. I wasn't mad at them.
Yeah. I did really enjoy all the behind the scenes stuff they did. Did you guys watch all that on the Prime Plus?
I have
Of
not,
course.
but I've been meaning to. Yeah.
Yeah, they do a lot of behind the scenes documentaries. Like every episode of season 1 has a behind the scenes.
Like Tar Valon, they did a
that's
Tar
actually-
Valon episode. Tar
Yeah,
Valon.
and they're talking about the settings and the scenes, and there's stuff
Oh, that-
about the
I
costume
love the making
design
of.
and prop design.
I
And they
love
show
that.
like how they filmed the ways. Like it's like here was the set for the ways.
Oh,
Oh.
that'd be cool.
Yeah, they did that with
And
House
how
of
it was-
Dragon too on HBO.
They did that with the original
Yeah.
Game of Thrones too, and that's where that famous quote comes that Dany forgot about the Iron Fleet, which is how one of her dragons got shot dead, which went over really well, and fans loved that. It was a good explanation, and it made the whole thing so much better. So yeah, behind the scenes content only goes well and can never backfire.
Thanks for that, Dick.
Well,
Appreciate the commentary.
But I think they took a note from like The Witcher, because The Witcher was doing a lot of that during its production, the behind the scenes type stuff, and then they did like explain the monsters of the Witcher world.
There's also animatics, like comic booky animatics that are explaining different aspects of the world building.
Yeah.
That are part of that extra Prime content as well.
I love that. I didn't even know. I thought it was like, because I kept seeing like Wheel of Time Prime Store, and I'm like, what the heck is that? Like when you
their
get
merchandising
the
could
X-ray
use some
stuff.
work.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Their merchandising could use some work. I'm actually, you can't really see it, I'm wearing an old Wheel of Time shirt that's Tyshar Manatherin. That was back when the licensing belonged to Taveran Tees. But the current shirt selection is lacking in my opinion. But yeah, it's the other fun thing though is to get to that content, you have to be on a PC. Like you have to go to you have to go into the episode, go to the X-ray, and you have to be on a PC to get to some of it.
Damn, that's
Well, on a computer. I think it works on a Mac too, but you have to be on a computer. You can't do it through your Roku or your smart TV. Some of the stuff just doesn't show up as options to watch, and that's or to look through, because they also have a lot of production portfolios of just like a whole bunch of different production stills or concept art and stuff like that. So,
well, I think as we go forward on the journey,
that's right, Nerdberg.
I think it will definitely start impressing me more, because I think that the more they get invested in it, the more that they have to not end it like Game of Thrones kind of thing. I mean, they just have to.
Well, you never.
right by
It could happen. It could happen to them too. I mean, Game of Thrones was
It
doing great.
it can, but they got to do the right thing by the.
Well,
their
at
fans,
least
I
there's
think.
already a written ending here.
Right.
Well, that is
Only
true.
for
Yeah,
them to
that's fine.
screw it up like they did with several characters. No, I get it. You can't have 10,000 characters that make an appearance. Like, I do get that part. And I also get that, it is shorter and we have to make adjustments. My hope for future episodes is that they've made all of the adjustments for character development reasons. Like I said with Perrin, so instead of taking this much time to explain Perrin, it's one catalyst event. It's happened. Now he has his thing going on. I'm hoping that all the mistakes that they changed for character development are done, and now we can get into like actual stuff. I don't think
I'm kind of hoping that they do less of the nods. Actually, I would rather these characters be completely omitted for adaptation's sake than for stuff to be teased at us and then taken away.
I agree with that wholeheartedly. What was Elaine's brother's name?
Gawain.
Gawain.
Well, Gawain and Gallon.
You're talking about, is it George or Jerry or Kramer? Which one?
Not Fred.
Kramer. Yeah.
They weren't kinfolk.
Whatever you pronounced it as, because I pronounce them all different than Bronner does.
Yeah,
I do, and I have that problem with a lot of books. You know, like even
Wheel of Time.
you made
not Wheel of Time. Sword of Truth. We are talking about.
I mean, I hope that they learn enough by doing like the One Power, and doing the Wheel of Time, so that when they finally do a real version of the Sword of Truth, that makes it a block. Because I mean, I love those books too, and they were another thing where either people love them or hate them. I mean, I literally went on the internet and I kept seeing Wheel of Time sucks, you know, like with red spray paint, you know, and I'm like, what?
There's rivalry between the two fandoms,
right? Yeah, and there always is, but I'm right there, and I love them both. I'm like, how could you not love them both? It's like not loving Tolkien and
Harry Potter,
Game of Thrones or whatever. It's
like our episode.
It just baffles my mind because it's all part of the world that I love and live in, you know, or want to live in.
You're so enlightened. I wish everybody were as enlightened as you, Broner.
You know, I would much rather live in Middle Earth than Westeros. Just saying.
Oh, I would much rather live in, you know, with a Mord Sith and.
Oh yeah. I was gonna say Amber, but yeah.
Amber too.
Give me that braid.
No, okay. I'll just be there in Bombadil's cabin. I think it's nice and safe and fun there.
Yeah, they were supposed to do Nine Princes in Amber. In fact, the showrunners for, I think The Walking Dead had bought the rights to do Nine Princes in Amber, much like me. You know, that was his book growing up. That was his series of books growing up, and those would be really easy, except for then there's this area called the Shadow that they travel through, and which would be really, really hard to depict. It'd be like the Ways kind of thing. Yeah. But in any case,
I don't have anything to say to that, but I do have a comment on that, like living in the Hobbit town, which sounds great, but get this, right? I would love living in Middle Earth, being one of those elves that gets to live like forever, just sipping on wine, talking all fancy like, not really having to do any real work or anything.
That's
That would be wonderful. In like nice floral garb. Oh my gosh.
Yep.
I'm a
second breakfast.
So that makes sense.
Yeah, which surprises me that you haven't actually read the books or watched the series, because it's right up your alley.
I will. I know I have to. It's one of those things people keep telling me, like, you should read this and watch this, and it looks so good. And I just
the more people tell you, the less likely you are to do it.
Yeah,
you shouldn't do it.
It's horrible. Don't watch it.
Don't let it be hyped.
The amount of it is what's intimidating, because I know once I get through book one, I'm gonna have to read all of them, and I think about all the time that the free time that I don't have, you know.
But it'll lend itself to your creativity that you have to do as being a showrunner for your LARP series. So
it's research.
All right. Well, with that, I'd like to thank Richard Fife, author of Conflict Born. Um,
Fantastic.
So go get it. You can go to Falstaff's webpage and get it. You can go to his stuff.
Yeah.
Give us your shout outs for your social media.
Oh yeah, you can find me richardfife.com, all one word, no hyphens or anything. And that you can find links to my books, my social media, and all that there, nice and easy.
Nice and easy in one place, and that's Fife. Fife.
Fife. Yep.
And say hi to your son for us.
Yep. Yeah, I will have to.
You
Let him know
remember
that
him
you're
from
on
the
the show
show
again.
Yeah, he was a lot of fun. But yeah, so that's it for the episode. We thank Sean for filling in the last minute. We thank Nick
for his
contributing
insights. Mm-hmm.
so much. I mean, monumental stuff. I mean,
Yep.
I think there will be books based upon your actual
Thoughtful analysis.
opinions. Yeah, and your analysis.
Of course. And also big thank you from me to Sean for stepping in, since I have no idea what the hell any of this is.
Nerdburger says to listen to the audibles on double speed.
Oh man, I would die.
Can they? I would love to listen to it, but to dubstep, like they're just talking it out, and then all of a sudden it drops. You know.
Anyway, from all of us here at Con Carolinas Television, go to concarolinas.org and get your tickets, because they are still at the low reduced early bird special prices. And we hope to see you at Con. We love seeing Richard at Con. He's awesome. In fact, the whole mothership and Falstaff, I think they make the Con. So with that being said, and I think we make the Con too. So
of course.
a lot of peace, a lot of love. Thank you again for being on the show, guys. And until next time, we'll see you.
Bye, guys.
Bye.